What we're going to talk about today is goal setting. And there are quite a few things I'm going to share with you about setting goals in your business, how I choose and how I recommend choosing your own goals, and then what to do to make sure that it's not one of those goals where, it's like, oh, okay, I'm starting a new month, I'm starting a new year, whatever. I have this set goal I'd like to hit in my business. And then that month, that year, that quarter rolls around, that it ends, and you are nowhere near that goal, right? That's the situation we want to avoid, because you do that a few times, you're going to get really discouraged. And then, you're going to either maybe give up or just wonder, hey, what's the point of setting more goals? Or just basically train yourself to not believe in the goals that you set, which you don't want. So the thing I like to think through for goal setting is, you guys know I love big goals, right? I am all for that. I don't believe that something has to be quote unquote realistic. What does that even mean? However, you want to balance having a big goal versus having a goal that is somewhat grounded based on what you have already accomplished. So what do I mean by that? I mean, if someone's coming to me, a potential client, and saying, I want to make 6 figures in the next 3 months, and they haven't made a single sale before, I'm going to say, well, let's maybe focus first on getting your first sale, right? But if someone's coming to me and they're saying, you know what, I've made, I don't know, $10,000 in my business. I know the basics of how to speak to my audience, who my audience is, sales, all of that. And I want to scale to 6 figures in the next maybe 4 months. I'll say, okay, great. Even if you've only made $10,000, you've got the proven understanding of your audience. You know the basics of your marketing and your sales. So what we can do is we can take that, build a really solid system, and scale it for you. So there's a difference in thinking through a really big goal and that's doable versus a really big goal that's not even a goal that you're going to be able to believe in. So how do you walk that fine line? The way I like to think about it is I like to think about where I am, right? And then I like to think about, okay, what is the next goal that feels really scary to me, but not so scary that it just completely defies belief? And so I want you to be careful with this. I'm going to give you some examples. So when I was first starting out in my first online business years ago, we're talking about my online ads consulting business. It really defied belief for me that I could actually get one paying client. So that was my first goal. Actually, even before that, to be honest, it was that, hey, will someone I'm talking to even say, oh yeah, this is something I would be interested in, right? That was a less official goal, but that really was my first goal. After that, I focused everything on getting my first paying client. It's like, okay, if I can get one client, I can kind of see that there are going to be people out there who care about what it is that I have to offer. And that was it. Even though I had really big goals, ultimately, like I wanted to build a 6, 7-figure business, you notice I wasn't saying from day one, I'm going to go out there and make a gazillion dollars in my first month or whenever. So I did that. And then after that, the only thing that I could wrap my head around was, after my first client, can I have another client? Can I get another client? Was the first one a fluke? Did I just get really lucky with connecting with the right person at the right time? Or is this a process that I can repeat? So for my next few clients, I would say about my next 3 clients, that's all I focused on. Okay, crossing the 3 to 5 clients total benchmark. That was it. After that, So those are the same milestones, to be honest, that I recommend for pretty much every new entrepreneur that comes to me, new and aspiring entrepreneur. And the reason for that is because that first client really creates that belief in your mind for yourself. You have proof. However, often what happens after the first client is you start thinking, hey, is it a fluke, right? Is it a fluke that I got this first client in this way or that way? And you really need to focus on getting your next few clients to realize, no, that was not a fluke. This is going to continue happening. After that, it starts getting really fun. Then it becomes about, okay, what's next? And there's so many different ways to play with this, right? I've had students after their first few clients say, hey, I'm ready to scale to 5-figure months. I'm ready to launch my first small group program or my first course. Depending on how much they've built up their audience and what they did to get their first few clients, they've set some sort of foundation to leapfrog or be the jumping board for them to hit that next big goal. And so for me, that's when things started getting really fun. I realized, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm helping people get really awesome results. Okay, let me aim to this next month, get this many more clients and maybe sell out my first small group program, right? And so I will tell you, like for a first launch of a group program or a course, which eventually at some point, almost every coach I've seen ends up wanting to do a group program or a course. The first launch, I usually recommend aiming for about a $5,000 to $10,000 goal. That's a goal that can feel like a stretch and can feel really scary. Now, caveating that, you have to have certain things in place, right? You have to have your offer sells course. You have to have a launch methodology or a launch strategy that you're using that is at least somewhat proven. You have to have a certain amount of people in your audience, which I usually recommend at least 500, if not 1,000 baseline. But aside from that, that's the goal that I usually recommend you aim for your first launch. And the reason for that is because it's a stretch, but it's a stretch that's doable. And it's that fine line between hitting a big goal and not having such a big goal that it just completely blows your mind and you don't believe in it and you don't hit it. Now, that's exactly what I did. My first group program launch drove about $8,000. After that, this is where it really starts becoming, okay, what do I want to aim for, and how do I let it be fun? But notice that you have to kind of earn the right to set those bigger and bigger and bigger goals by learning about your audience, by hitting these first few goals first, right? So basically I'm sharing with you guys the goals that I recommend setting first. And then after this, so it's the first client, it's the next 3 or so clients, 3 to 5 clients. And then it's the third goal is usually there are 2 ways that people go, either to really create the system that we talk about in Employee to Entrepreneur and have it be really set up for your audience and your business so that you make at least one sale through it. So you're realizing, okay, wow, this system is really consistent. I'm starting to build a business. I've got content that's working for me. And wow, I don't have to, I can start thinking about my business a little bit more like an actual business. Or some people choose to go the other way of saying, okay, I'm ready to scale into a course or a group program. So those are the 2 most common paths. Of course, there are some exceptions in some other ways, but those are the 2 most common ones. Then after that, it really becomes about, okay, how do I make it bigger? So for me, after my first group program launch, I had my methodology, right? This methodology that I came up with at the time that I share in Ultimate Course Launch with you guys. I knew my numbers. I knew, okay, the last time I did this launch, I had this many people go through my launch. I converted at this rate. And so I also knew, what it would cost if I wanted to spend on paid advertising. I knew what it would mean if I could get a lead for $4, $5, $6, $7, and what that ROI would look like on the back end because I'd done it once already. So that's what I mean when I say setting goals that are grounded based in, I don't want to say reality because What does that mean? Based in things that you have experience in, that there's some basis for it. And so I knew all of that. And so that's when I went on and said, okay, I have my strategy, I have my product, I have testimonials, I know what I'm doing. The next goal that I want to aim for is $100,000 for my launch. Now, the thing is, I like to set really big goals. You guys know this. And I also like really even numbers. So this was one of those things where it felt incredibly scary. There was a part of my mind where I didn't necessarily believe that I could really do it, because it was a really big stretch goal. I didn't have a massive audience. Like, I didn't have the beginning audience to line up, the numbers to line up to the goals that I wanted to hit. But we're gonna talk about in a second how I think through reverse engineering my goals. Before I do go into that though, let me just wrap up this section. So that's how I set that goal. Okay, if I scale this, I already have a proven methodology. Notice I didn't start out and say, okay, for my first launch, never having done a launch before, not having run a group program, I'm going to aim for $100,000. Maybe I could have, maybe I would have hit it. Most likely I wouldn't have. But then once I had that, it was a lot easier for me. I don't want to say easy, but easier relatively for me to really scale that process with what I had already established. So it was more about scaling versus creating my launch methodology, knowing my numbers, all of those things. So it becomes a lot easier. So this is what I want you guys to notice. There's a classic image about startup growth called the hockey stick growth curve, right? Where it looks like a hockey stick, where it's like slow, 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 and then boom. Okay, I'm not doing it very well. Just imagine like an upward curve. So in the beginning, it's like it feels slow, it feels slow, it feels slow. But what you're really doing, even if the results themselves can feel slow, is you're really setting the foundation for your hockey stick, right? So what's this slow, quote unquote, slow part? It's getting your first client. It's getting your next few clients. It's maybe setting up your conversion system and or selling your first small group program or course launch. And then what happens is you get to this point where you've established the foundation, you know your numbers, and you're ready to scale. Because remember, for this type of business, it's not that complicated. You've got leads, you've got prospects, which are leads that have joined your email list essentially, and then you've got sales. And that's true for a lot of businesses, but for an online business, it's even less complicated than pretty much every other business out there. And those are the only three things you've got to focus on. And so once you've established your core, I know my numbers, I know my strategy, right? Which takes a little bit of time because you're learning a brand new skill, figuring out a whole bunch of new things. And what that does is it allows you to go out there and really scale it and hit that growth curve for yourself, that exponential part. And so that's the first takeaway I want to really make sure that you have. I mean, there were quite a few takeaways that we just went through: setting goals, the goals I recommend setting, my own examples, and really just keeping in mind that if you're coming out on day one and saying, I want to make 6 figures in 3 months, okay, great for you. But do you really believe that? Do you know how to get there? Do you truly believe that? And I want you to really think about, because I will have people who come to me and say, yes, I really believe it. You know, it feels like a stretch. I've never done it before, but you know, I just believe it. I do. And when someone says that to me and they haven't accomplished any of that before, maybe they even haven't hit 6 figures in their jobs before, I will say, look, I'm stepping up as your coach. Oh, forgot to put my other computer on Do Not Disturb. I'm stepping up as your coach, and I'm calling this out. Right? You can think that you really believe it, but let's be honest. If you have never hit this before, you're doing a brand new thing, building a business where you're trying to hit this, then chances are you don't really believe this. You don't even know how you're going to do it. It's just an ego-driven goal. And when you do that, that's not, again, never say never, but that's most likely not a goal that you're going to end up hitting. It's going to be a goal that you don't really believe in, so you don't really work towards it, then you don't hit it, and then you end up not getting your goal and you become discouraged and you start wondering what's the whole point. So this is the process that you really want to think through. Before I move on to the next thing that I want to share, let me hop in the comments and see what's coming up for you guys. Any comments or questions, let me know. Okay, so Kevin, good morning. Chessa, good morning. Sending healing energy. Thank you. Annalise, Miho, good morning. Awesome. Okay, so the next piece that I want to talk through is really how I think of the way I think about each and every one of my goals. So I remember this is something that I have done since the beginning of my business, where I will set goals for every month and year. I was going to say quarter, but I don't really set quarterly goals because I just focus on per month, right? Where in the beginning, I was only doing one thing. I didn't have sophisticated marketing or promotion campaigns. I didn't really have a whole bunch of products. It was just me. It was my skills. It was my experience and my content. I didn't have a team, anything. But from that point to now, the process I use for goal setting is the same. Every month, I have a clear idea of what I'm going to do and the goal that I want to hit. And the things that I'm going to do need to line up with the goal that I want to hit, right? So notice what I'm saying. Whenever you set your goal for yourself, you need to have a plan in place where you know this is how I'm going to hit it. And so it doesn't have to be necessarily, okay, this is how I'm going to get this exact client, right? That's kind of out of our control, to be honest. I mean, how are you going to predict exactly who and who's going to find you? I mean, you can argue there are certain things you can do, like be in control of your traffic, have your conversion system, all of that. But at the end of the day, it's still a little bit up in the air. There's that human factor. So what I would do is I would say, hey, okay, here's my goal, right? If my goal is to make, let's say at the beginning of my business, one client sale, what am I going to do to make sure all my activity is focused on driving that one sale? That was the only thing I would do. If my goal is to sell out a course launch, okay, how am I going to sell it out? Okay, and this is the exact process I think through, and I'm going to share it with you guys. To hit pretty much every launch goal, I do this for every launch. I know my product price point, whether it's a few $100s to a few $1,000s, right? Whatever that price point for that product I want to sell. And whatever goal I have, first thing I do, okay, how many of that product do I need to sell to hit that financial goal, right? That's number one. Then I look at my existing audience. What's the current size of my audience? How many people can I expect to convert into my products? At this point, because I've built up a really amazing audience, I have built up a really solid reputation, I can expect that 1% of my audience will convert, even for my higher end products during a launch. And so I'll say, okay, that gives me this many people. How much further does that mean I am from the launch goal that I have, the number of total products I want to sell? That's the number I need to make up for. Now, there are a few ways you can make up for it. You can add things that increase the average order size of your product. You can add upsells, you can add back-end upsells, things like that. You can increase your existing audience conversion rate. So if I could do something like really cool and awesome and somehow increase my conversion rate to 1.5%, 2% of my audience, which in the past we have done before. So it's, again, there's that basis in proof and experience. Then, okay, that would mean I'm closer to that goal. So I play with that. I think through, okay, is there something I can do? All of the things that I just shared. And then I think through, okay, so what is this remaining number of sales that I need to make up? That's where I start thinking through, okay, what can I do to make that up? Is it I'm going to drive more paid traffic, right? Get new people to me. Is it I'm going to partner with some affiliate partners and ask them to promote my product to their audience? What can I expect to be the conversion rate for each of these things? For example, I don't do a ton of affiliate partnerships. I really only do them with people I really like and know and are actually friends. But because of that, I pretty much know very well the audience size for each of these groups and friends that I have. So I know, okay, when I do an affiliate partnership with so-and-so, they usually drive this many sales. So again, there's that basis in experience. And so I will think through, okay, These are all things I have. All right, then the final piece, maybe I'm doing a publication for, I'm writing an article for a publication or an interview. That's gonna get me this many subscribers, most likely. Then the rest, okay, paid traffic, my social media audience, wherever that's coming from. I'm very clear about, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do and back into the numbers to be able to do that. And at this point, remember, this is with a proven launch conversion strategy, really knowing all my marketing and sales stuff, right? But when I didn't have all of this in the beginning, when I didn't have a course or a product launch, when I was selling coaching, it was the same thing. I had my coaching offer, right? I knew when I started, I had no audience. Let's be clear about that. Everybody starts with zero audience. But I was very clear with, okay, here's where I can go and find my audience. Maybe I can go and pitch myself to this publication or this community or whatever I need to do, all the things that we talk about in Employed Entrepreneur. And I would say, okay, this publication maybe is going to drive me this many people. This community maybe will put me in front of this many people. So again, notice that when you set a goal, it's not just, hey, I'm going to set the goal. I'm going to just do some stuff and hope it happens. You set a goal, you reverse engineer into the, okay, here's the numbers, here's what I need to do, here's how I'm going to hit it. Then this is the final piece. Once you've mapped out that whole thing, right? And I do that for every big launch that I do. I don't do it, like right now I can do it very quickly every single month because I know, okay, paid traffic, this product will make this many sales, I have this partnership coming up, I have this promotion internally, I have this big launch, whatever that looks like I just know because now I plan basically my entire year in advance for my promotions. Again, keeping in mind that I'm almost 5 to 6 years into this business, right? When I was starting out, like the first 3 years, definitely wasn't doing that. And so I map out all of those things and I still do it to this day. Then once you have that, you do it and you release the attachment to how exactly it's going to work out because you are already doing the things that you plan. This is the key because here's the thing. You might think that, oh, if I go and promote to this community, it's going to drive me so many sales. Maybe that's going to happen. Maybe it's not. But if you have that attachment to that outcome and it doesn't happen the way you want it to, you're going to get really discouraged. Whereas if you are doing all of the things that you plan, like the way we talk about in Employed Entrepreneur, like I just kind of shared with you how I do it, if you are doing all of those things that you planned, then it could be that the community that you're partnering with that you thought wasn't going to drive a ton of sales because it's a really small community ends up driving you way more sales than a way bigger community because the smaller community's audience is a better fit, they're more engaged, they're higher quality, whatever. And so it's your job to set the goal, to reverse engineer how you are going to hit it. And then the rest, you just do and implement. And then you let the things that need to happen. So there's that fine line between being in control, being really focused, being that, analytical kind of engineering type of a person. And then letting the things that are out of your control, not worrying about them because that's not going to do you any good anyways. And usually what happens is if you've got the right plan, you've got the right main elements, the right offer, you know how to speak to your audience, you've got your right audience, like all of those main things dialed in, it usually ends up working out either the way you thought or in a slightly different way. So for example, there are launches where I thought that let's say paid traffic would drive more sales. But I still ended up hitting my overall number because I had so many action items in place, right? It's not like I'm just relying on any one thing. And so even when that happened, maybe I had an affiliate partner who just oversold what I estimated they were going to sell. You don't know. So then other thing I want to point out is that notice that once you set that goal, you reverse engineer it, you focus on the numbers, you focus on the conversion rates, all the things that you now know how to do through Employed Entrepreneur. You do all of that. And then you map out different strategies. You're not just relying on one thing. You don't have all your eggs in one basket. It's not like, oh, I pitched this one place. If they don't get back to me, all right, I'm screwed. It's okay. Maybe in the beginning, I've pitched 5, 10, 20 places. Right? So I've got the strategy, I've got my estimates, and if one doesn't fall through, okay, great, I have 19 other possibilities. So it's not about necessarily doing a whole bunch of different things. It's not like in the beginning you're, pitching this many places, you're trying to blog and then YouTube and then whatever else. It's you're focused on one or two main types of activities, but you're not just doing it like with one person or one group. So when I say don't put your eggs in one basket, I want to be really clear. It's not about trying to do too many things and overwhelming yourself. You're just going to get overwhelmed. I've seen it time and time again. It's about focusing on a few core strategies, right? And then having different versions of that strategy, whether that means different publications that you're pitching to, different communities that you're potentially partnering with, whatever that looks like. And so then you just do it. You map it out. This is the next piece. Like literally every single plan I have, or every month, every year, the goals that I set, right? I reverse engineer it. Then I schedule it out. It's not just in my head. I write it out, I schedule it out. And this can sound simple, but it makes such a massive difference. Where I've shared with you guys in the beginning of my business, right? My 3x15 rule. I literally would mark on my calendar, okay, at like 8 o'clock in the morning, 15 minutes, I'm gonna do a quick post. Noon, during my lunch break, 15 minutes, gonna do a quick post. 8 p.m., 15 minutes, gonna do a quick post. I literally had it on my calendar. That's all I had at the beginning of my business. It's really all I had time for because I was in a job. And that's all I needed to do in the beginning. Nowadays, it's the same thing, but and honestly, I was gonna say in less detail, but actually no, it's in the exact same amount of detail. I have it on my calendar. Like I know, all right, this month, this is what I'm going to be promoting. We're going to do an internal launch, or we're going to do an affiliate promo, or we're going to do a big launch, whatever that looks like. Okay, when is it? What needs to happen, right? It's on my calendar. And nowadays, now that I have a team, we're using things like Basecamp to really make it clear this needs to happen by who, by whom, and by what date. So you map it out. You plan it into reality, and then you do it. And there are a few things that are really important to note. First, note that this goal setting process, it happens consistently. It's not like I set a goal and I forget about it. I set a goal nowadays it's every month. Like I have a pretty clear idea what I'm gonna hit based on what's going on. It's just, I've been doing this for a while, right? If I have a launch or a campaign that's gonna span multiple months, then I have a separate goal for that. That's up to a goal for a year, right? Then for each thing, it's very much placed on my calendar. Like I know exactly what's gonna happen to hit that goal. That's very clear. I'm not just setting goals saying, okay, I hope random people find me. I mean, nowadays, given how much content I have out there and how long I've been doing this, that does happen. But I'm not expecting it or waiting for that to be the reason I hit my goals. I'm very much doing the things I need to do everything I can to hit my goals. And then, right, it's on my calendar. There are to-dos. It's very tangible. I do it. And then I release the attachment to the outcome. Like I said, even nowadays, like I might do a partnership with an affiliate partner and think, oh man, they have a really amazing audience. It's going to go really well. And it might not go as well. Their audience might not be a good fit for my offer, or my audience for theirs, etc. Whatever, that's fine. I'll probably have other offers or other things lined up. So I've always got a few things going on every month. Now, there are core things that I do all the time. Every month, I'm releasing at least 1 to 2 really epic blog articles. I'm releasing weekly YouTube videos. I'm writing a lot of newsletters to my email list, right? I mean, those are I'm sure I'm missing some, but core things that I do every month, every week, maybe every day, whatever that looks like, to make sure that I'm grounded in the things I need to do to hit my goals. But it's not just like mindless to-dos, right? Everything fits into a bigger picture because I've mapped out my goal, I have the strategy, and I know where each to-do fits in. So yeah, the main points, yeah, I do this consistently, as you should too. In the beginning of my business, it was the same thing. First month, right? Or whenever, like first month, when the month I set that first client goal, that's the quote unquote first month. It wasn't the real first month, but for the purposes of what we're talking about right now, that was. Second month, right? Get my next client, whatever that looks like. Do it every single month. So you are very focused. You're not just kind of running your business on autopilot, right? You're very clear on what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how it's going to back into the goal that you want to hit. You're setting goals that feel like a stretch. They feel really good and maybe scary and exciting, but they're not so far out that you just have no clue how it's going to happen. Again, never say never. You could set a goal like that and hit it, but why not maximize your chances of actually hitting your goals, right? So doing all of that. And the final piece I will say is there are going to be times when you don't hit your goals. That's part of life, right? There have been times, many, many times over the past few years where I've set a goal and maybe I fell a little bit short of it. What do? You first realize that's normal, right? That's life, especially if you're setting big goals. There are going to be times when you're not hitting them. If you're hitting your goals every single month, maybe it's time to be thinking about setting bigger goals. So when that happens, I will sit back and analyze, where did my hypothesis, right? Or what's the plural, hypotheses? Anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about. Where did my estimates fall short? Did I not convert at the conversion rate that I thought I was going to? Did I not drive the number of new leads that I thought I was going to? Did this partner not promote me the way they promised they would, right? Did, what else? I mean, did my acquisition costs for a certain traffic channel go up more than anticipated? Did it convert lower than anticipated, right? Just breaking down all the variables that you guys now know how to do and really sitting down and analyzing, okay, what happened? What can I learn from this? How can I improve it? All right, moving on, right? Like learn what you can from it. Don't beat yourself up. Know that that's normal, especially if you're setting big goals. And honestly, if you're doing it this way, even if you miss your goal, it's like that saying, right? If you aim for the, what? You aim for the stars, or is it aim for the moon? Okay, anyways, you guys know what I'm saying. Like aim for the stars. If you fall short, you'll still land on the moon, or the other way. Okay, either way, you guys get the point, where if you're doing these things and you fall short of your goal, maybe your goal is to hit a $20,000 month. I will tell you, this is a conversation I've had quite a few times with different clients over the years, where it's like, you know, they'll have set some really big goal, like, oh, I want to have a $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000, whatever month. Maybe they won't hit it. Often they will, but sometimes they won't. We'll be having a conversation. Hey, I didn't, hit my goal. I didn't hit my $100,000 a month goal or $20,000 a month goal. And I'll say, okay, obviously as a coach, I will say, okay, let's really break down what happened, right? We'll analyze it. But then after we do all the tactical things to learn and to figure out, okay, what do you need to do next month to hit this goal? Then I'll sit down and say, okay, let's take a step back. How much did you actually do this month? And these are actual conversations I've had where a client wanted to hit 30,000 and they hit like 20,000 or 25. A client wanted to hit 100,000 and did like 60,000. And I'll say, okay, in the grand scheme of things, not doing too bad, right? So and even if it's like a smaller goal and you're just starting out, everyone starts out there, right? Everyone starts out from zero. If I had a goal of, hey, I wanted to break my first $5,000, but I made like 3,500, or I wanted to have my first $10,000 month. And you know what? I did 5,600 and it was my highest month ever. You've got to put it into that perspective and really focus on, okay, this is the improvement I made. There's room for improvement. This is what I'm going to do next month to hit it, but this is the closest I've ever come to it. So I did want to talk about that a little bit because that's really important because it's going to happen. All right, so those are the things that I wanted to share with you guys today. Let me hop in the comments, see what comments and questions are coming up for you guys. Okay, so Sasha is saying, I'm really realizing the importance of this, not just doing for the sake of doing. When you anchor it to a goal, it takes the guesswork out and really helps with the mindset gremlins. Exactly. Guys, you guys know, right? My engineering training, former space station engineer, I'm all about, look, yes, believe, be optimistic, work on your mindset. All of that's really important. But like many people, many of you guys here especially, I need tangible things that I can grasp onto. Numbers, right? Strategies, tactics. So what you do is you set the goal, you map out what you're going to do to hit it, then you do it, and that really focuses you. Because that way, even if you don't hit your goals, what happens is you start learning all the things that I just talked through, you start realizing, oh, okay, here's how I course correct. Here's how I can learn. You've got that like foundation to focus on versus just like aimlessly trying to do stuff and scramble and hustle nonstop. Even if that works and gets you a client or two, it's not going to build you a business in the long term, right? So this is like the guiding, I don't know, end goal, whatever you want to call it, that really ensures that you are at this point where you are holding on to something that's driving you and everything you do for the entire month, quarter, year, etc. Awesome. Chessa is saying, I feel like I've practiced enough sales call offering my free happiness coaching services that I'm ready for my first high paying client. Awesome. I'm praying and hopefully soon accompanied by my intention. Awesome. That's what I need to do to start working on my calendar. Fantastic. Kevin is saying, thank you for covering scheduling. I scheduled and haven't been consistently reviewing or revisiting the goal consistently. Yeah, I mean, so I'm not a goal expert, guys, but I mean, and this is a really common thing where you guys have probably heard that saying where it's like, you know, so many people don't even set goals, and then most people who set goals don't ever review them. That's not the point of a goal, right? That's like a dream. Not even a dream, it's a just random thought in your head if you're just setting a number, not reviewing it, not doing the things to work towards it. Literally, this should be like kind of your driving force after you know the basics, which you guys now do, of getting clients, writing the basics of content, marketing, sales, etc. You set that goal, and that is literally what guides your strategy and your to-dos for a certain amount of time. Then you revisit it. Did I hit it? Great. What could I have done even better? Did I not hit it? That's okay. What did I hit? What can I improve? And how can I hit it next time? Right? That is like the thing that you use to kind of propel yourself forward more and more and more. Sasha is saying, I think what happens sometimes is that we erroneously assign our worth as people to the success of pitching, etc. Oh, absolutely. That's why I was initially hesitant to get going. I overestimated the sting of the rejection and underestimated the big results from small, consistent action. I love that you said that. I mean, I see this time and time again. We get in our heads, but then once you start taking actual action, you start realizing, okay, maybe the first few rejections hurt. Okay, that's okay. Be kind to yourself, know that you're human. And after the first few, it becomes about, okay, I'm realizing it's not personal. I do what I need to do, and then you know, what needs to happen will happen. Some will say yes, awesome. Some will say no, that's okay, it's not personal, learn and move on, right? So that's absolutely, like we were talking about earlier, being rejected, failing, that's part of the process. When you really absorb that and realize that's part of the process, failing, being rejected is not like this big special thing that is happening to me because I suck, right? And I say this with love. Then you're able to move on from it much faster and absorb it and learn from it so that you get less and less rejections. Yes, Chessa is saying, likewise, I'll have to revisit and review goal setting. Awesome. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. A really, really key thing as you are going into the new year. And really, this is something that you want to be thinking about periodically and consistently, like we just talked about, for the life of your business, right? So really be thinking about everything I just shared for setting your goals, how you're going to hit them, what you're going to do to make sure that you hit them, and address hitting your goals and not hitting your goals the way I just talked about. And like I said, there's this fine line, right? Aim for big goals after you cross the basics. Then prepare for that hockey stick, plan for that hockey stick, aim for that hockey stick. That's what you should be doing, because the beauty of an online business is that you can scale so much faster than a lot of other types of businesses with lower, not businesses with lower overhead, because an online business has lower overhead, more potential to scale. You've got just so much opportunity here. Right? It just makes sure that you're aiming for that hockey stick growth curve at the right point. Sasha is saying, do you use Trello or ClickUp or anything to help map everything out? I use Basecamp. So it's not a like a Trello. I haven't heard of ClickUp, but you know, Trello is like a Kanban board type of project management. You move things, it's very visual. I don't do that. I just am very clear. This month I'm doing this. there are only so many to-dos, right? I use to-do lists via Basecamp. It's like, for example, really, really simple breakdown. Let's say I'm doing a mini launch, right? An internal launch, not a massive one. What do I need to do? Sales page up, sales emails, post purchase delivery. We've got the whole sequence, the order forms, everything set up, the access set up. What else? I'm sure I'm missing some things, but those are the main things. Okay, great. Who's responsible for what? Designer for sales page, operations for the setup of the order form, the upsell sequence, all of that, the setting up the access tags, what someone gets once they purchase. I'm going to create the content. Maybe I'm bringing on a copywriter to do some content for me. Maybe, maybe not. What else? Customer support has a list of questions, common questions, and how to answer them, right? Things to direct people to. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Designer, copywriter, operations, customer support. Here are your to-dos, right? It's really, for this type of business, here's the thing. It should not be complicated. It's not like a massive, right, multi-person project. Once you know the main things to focus on, it really is about okay, here are the things, here's who needs to do them, and done.